The jungle of planet Xyloth never stayed quiet for long. It breathed like a living thing. Tall black trees reached toward the red sky, their long leaves twitching with every wind. Strange birds screamed above the treetops. The air carried the smell of wet mud and something older, something that never belonged to nature, something that hunted deep inside this alien jungle. Soldiers from the Galactic Council stood inside a hidden control room, watching a large screen. Their eyes followed every movement. They were not watching an army. They were not watching ships. They were watching a single human. He stood in a small clearing. No gun, no armor, no helmet. Only skin and muscle. Dirt covered his arms. Scars covered his back. His face looked calm to calm. The only sound around him came from the leaves, moving gently in the warm wind. But he did not move. One alien captain scoffed. "Foolish human, he thinks he can survive this." Another laughed. "Let him try. The predator will enjoy the taste." Of him, far away from the council's ship, something else moved through the jungle. Trees bent out of the way. Heavy steps crushed everything beneath them. The ground trembled. Insects ran. Small animals screamed. The apex predator had arrived. It did not look like anything humans knew. Its body was long and covered in thick bone plates. 10 glowing eyes blinked across its head. Its mouth opened, sideways, filled with jagged teeth. Long arms hung low with claws sharper than any sword. It walked without fear. It hunted without sound. This predator had killed many creatures. Monsters from other planets, beasts made in labs, even machines fell before it. The Galactic Council called it their strongest creation. They called it perfect, and today they sent it to kill one man. The human still did not move. He only looked toward the trees. His feet stayed planted. His chest rose and fell slowly. He blinked once, then turned his head just a little. He was listening. The trees behind him shifted. The predator stepped into the clearing. Silence fell. Even the birds above stopped screaming. The alien soldiers leaned closer to the screen. Some smiled, some waited for the first strike. They expected blood. They expected to see the human run, but the human did not run. Instead, he dropped to one knee. He picked up dirt from the ground, rubbed it between his fingers, and then stood up again. No fear in his eyes, just focus. Sharp, cold focus. The predator tilted its head. Its 10 eyes scanned the human. No armor, no weapons, no threat. It opened its jaws slowly, showing teeth meant to rip through flesh and steel. Then it charged. It did not walk. It leaped. The ground broke beneath its feet. The jungle roared. But the human had already moved. He rolled to the side. The predator's claws slashed into the ground where he stood only seconds before. Dust flew. The predator roared in rage and turned fast, but the human had vanished into the trees. Now the aliens leaned forward. He ran. One said, "No." Another whispered. He lured it in. Inside the jungle, the human climbed a thick tree with bare hands, fast, silent. He moved like someone who had done this before. He looked down and saw the predator sniffing the ground. It followed his scent, but the human had planned this. He broke a branch and threw it far to the left. The predator snapped its head toward the sound and charged again, the wrong direction. The human dropped from the tree and ran the other way. His feet moved over roots and stones like he had lived there forever. He was not afraid of the jungle. He became part of it. Alien soldiers began to whisper. This is not a normal human. He was trained for what? For killing. Hours passed. The predator hunted, but it did not catch. The human moved too fast, too smart. He left false trails, made small traps. Nothing big, just small cuts. Branches bent, rocks stacked. But each one slowed the predator. Then something strange happened. The predator stopped. One of its eyes blinked red. Blood dripped from its left arm. Somewhere, somehow, the human had cut it. The aliens sat up straight. What just happened? He wounded it. With what? His hands. No one answered back on the planet. The human crouched under a thick root. He watched the predator from below. His chest moved slowly. He held a sharp rock in one hand. His eyes locked on the creature. He whispered one word to himself. Now, the predator turned, but too late. The human leaped from the ground and smashed the rock into one of the predator's side eyes. A high-pitched shriek cut through the jungle. The creature spun in pain. Its claws slashed wildly, but the human ducked, rolled, and vanished again. Blood sprayed across the leaves. The alien room turned cold. The leader stood slowly and stared at the screen. This is not going the way we planned. He heard it. Another whispered, with a rock. No, the leader said, with skill. Far below, the human climbed another tree and looked out over the forest. His hands were red. His breath was heavy, but his eyes were still calm and high in orbit. A room full of aliens began to feel something they had never felt when looking at humans before. Fear, asterisk. The blood still dripped from the predator's wounded eye. Thick, black, and hot, it fell onto the jungle floor and burned small holes in the ground. The creature growled low. Its chest moved with fast, angry breaths. 10 eyes had become 9. And somewhere in the jungle, the man who did this had disappeared once again. Up in orbit, the Galactic Council's control room turned quiet. The aliens inside no longer laughed. Their screens zoomed in on the predator's damaged face. Its skin twitched. Its tail slammed against a tree. That had never happened before. No creature had ever hurt this thing. Not in the trials, not in training, not even in real war zones. And now, one human had done it with only a sharp stone. The alien commander stepped forward. Track the predator. Stay locked on the human. I want every movement. The other officers nodded quickly. Their fingers tapped screens. Drones circled the jungle, feeding images to the command room. But even with their advanced tech, the human remained hard to follow. He moved without sound. His heat signature disappeared often. He blended with the land like he belonged to it. Below, in the thick jungle, the predator sniffed the air. Its body moved slowly now. No more fast running. It was hunting with caution. That confused it. It had never needed to be careful before. But something about this human was different. The man had no armor, no ship, yet he left wounds behind. The predator paused. Its remaining eyes scanned the trees. Leaves shifted. A bird flew off. Nothing else. Then a sound clicked, too soft for most creatures, but not for this one. The predator looked down and saw a vine stretched tight under its foot. Before it could react, the vine snapped loose, and a log swung down from the trees. It slammed into the beast's shoulder and knocked it sideways, not enough to injure, but enough to stun. The predator roared in frustration. The human had set a trap, and it worked. From the top of a high branch, the human watched. His face remained calm, His chest rose and fell as he studied the creature's movement. He took mental notes. He watched the way it reacted, the way it circled, the way it learned. He saw more than just a beast. He saw a problem that needed solving. He gripped another stone, sharper this time. He had shaped it using pressure and heat. The jungle gave him what he needed. He only had to know how to take it. The predator ran again, crashing through the trees. Now it was angry. Its movements turned wild. It began smashing anything that moved. The jungle shook with its rage. Birds flew away. Trees snapped. It had never felt pain like this before, and pain made it reckless. The human used that. He sprinted low between thick roots, leaving more false trails. He covered his scent with crushed leaves. He moved through water, then circled back. He threw a piece of his shirt far ahead to confuse the predator's nose. Every second he stayed. Alive was a message sent straight to the eyes of the aliens watching from above. The message said, "I am not prey." Back in the command room, one of the younger officers stood up. His voice shook. Should we call it back? The predator might lose. The commander stared at him. No, let it continue. This is useful. We are learning. But ... if he wins? The commander didn't answer. He just watched, on the planet. The human reached a deep canyon. Sharp rocks lined the bottom. He dropped a large tree branch into the pit. It landed with a loud echo. He stared down for a long time, then looked at the sky. He knew they were watching. He pointed toward the sky, not waving, not asking for help, but challenging them. The predator caught up moments later. It burst from the trees and roared loud enough to shake the ground. The human did not run. Instead, he turned and ran straight toward the edge of the canyon. The aliens in orbit sat up fast. Is he trying to jump? No, he's going to fall. But the human reached the edge and dove to the side at the last second. The predator, too focused, too angry, could not stop in time. It skidded forward, claws digging into the dirt, trying to slow down. But the edge gave way. The beast dropped halfway into the canyon, one arm grabbing the rocks just in time. The human stood at the edge and looked down. The predator hissed. It pulled itself back up slowly, breathing hard. Now it was tired. Now it was bleeding from 2 wounds. Now it knew fear. The human turned and walked back into the trees, not quickly, not escaping, just walking as if this fight would happen when he decided. And far above, in the ship filled with aliens, silence returned. But this time, it was not from amusement. It was the silence of doubt. One officer broke it. What kind of man fights a monster like that? ... without fear. Another replied softly, the kind you should never send to die. Down on Xyloth, the jungle wind blew gently. The human sat on a thick branch, sharpening another rock. He looked up through the red leaves toward the sky. He whispered a few quiet words to himself. Next time, I break its back. And then he smiled. The jungle had changed. The trees still stood tall, the birds still screamed, but something in the air had shifted. It was not just the wind, it was not just the sound. It was something deeper, something heavier. The predator could feel it in its bones. For the first time in its life, it was no longer the one controlling the hunt. Now it felt hunted. Its wounds burned with each step. One eye was blind. Its front leg limped slightly. Dried blood stuck to the scales on its side. The great apex predator had never taken this much damage in a single day. Not from machines, not from beasts, never from a human. Yet this man did not stop. He did not fear. He did not run. He planned. He struck. He disappeared, and every time he returned, something bled. High above, inside the Galactic Council ship, the command room looked darker now. The laughter had gone. Even the noise of boots and tools and screens had faded. Officers whispered. Eyes stayed on the screen. Some refused to blink. All of them watched the man below and waited to see what he would do next. On the planet, the human moved through the jungle like a ghost. He left no footprints now. He used mud to hide his skin. He sharpened new rocks and shaped them like blades. He had learned the predator's path. He had mapped the jungle in his mind. Every trap, every sound, every tree, he remembered it all. He crouched near a fallen log and listened. The jungle talked to him. The branches told him where the wind moved. The birds warned him where danger walked. His ears picked up the softest noise, the drag of a claw against dirt. It was close, but he was ready. The predator moved carefully now, not silent. It did not know how, but careful. Its eyes twitched left and right. Its long tongue flicked out, tasting the air. The scent of the human came again, this time stronger. The beast turned and stepped into another trap. A set of sharpened sticks shot up from the ground. Not strong enough to kill. The human had no metal, but enough to dig into its leg and cause more pain. The predator screamed. The human did not smile. He only nodded once, then vanished deeper into the trees. Inside the council ship, panic began to rise. This is not battle, one alien said. This is humiliation, said another. The commander raised one clawed hand. Let it continue. We will learn more. But even his voice had lost its strength. The predator pulled the sticks from its leg and stood up. Blood ran down to its claws. Its breathing turned wild. The human's scent was everywhere. It circled left, then turned right. It followed another trail, this one strong, but it was wrong again. As it pushed through a wall of thick vines, it walked straight into a rope trap. Vines looped around its arm and yanked it high. Its body spun, slammed into a tree, and hit the ground. The beast roared in pain. Up above, the human watched from a high branch. This was not just survival anymore. This was control. He dropped from the tree like a stone and hit the ground hard, right behind the predator. His hands slammed a sharp rock into the creature's shoulder. The predator twisted fast, claws flashing. But the human was already gone. Another deep cut now marked the beast's back. It turned in circles, snapping at shadows. The man had become invisible, and worse, unpredictable. The predator tried to flee. It ran through the jungle, breaking trees in its path. But every few minutes, the human appeared again. A stone thrown from the trees hit its jaw. Another trap snapped against its leg. A spear made of bone stabbed into its side. The predator no longer hunted, it only survived, and it did not survive well. Deep underground, in the memory banks of the Council's war archives, alarms began to go off. Records matched the humans' tactics to ancient Earth soldiers, ones trained in long war. Jungle fighters, silent killers. The aliens had made a mistake. They had chosen the wrong human back on the planet. The human stood at the top of a large hill. The jungle opened below him like a wide green ocean. His eyes moved calmly. He saw the broken trees, the trails of blood, the desperate path of a dying predator. He held a new weapon now, a long staff with sharpened stone at the end, made from the jungle's bones, wrapped with rope made of leaves. He gripped it like a man ready for war. The wind moved through the trees, and the predator stopped running. Something inside it snapped. It turned around slowly, breathing heavy. It had strength left, but not much. It looked toward the hill, and it knew the human was waiting, not hiding, not escaping. Waiting they would meet again. One last time the jungle held its breath. And far above, the aliens realized the truth they never expected to face. Their strongest weapon would lose. Their perfect predator would fall, not because of numbers, not because of technology, but because one man had learned the land, the enemy, and himself. He had become the jungle, and the jungle never lost. The jungle stood still. No birds flew, no trees moved. Even the wind seemed to hold back. The man stood at the top of the hill, his spear in hand, eyes cold like stone. He no longer looked like the man who had arrived here days ago. His skin now carried dust and blood. His arms were covered in scratches and scars. His muscles looked tight and lean. His face showed no fear. He had become part of this world, and the predator knew it. Far below, the beast limped forward. Its legs dragged. Its tail hung low. Its body shook with each breath. Blood covered its shoulders and side. One eye remained clear, but even that one blinked slower now. The creature's claws still looked sharp, but they moved without power. It had strength left, but not the will. It stopped at the bottom of the hill and looked up. There stood the human, waiting, watching, challenging. No more hiding. No more hiding. No more traps. No more games. This was the end. The predator growled low and began climbing. The jungle watched in silence. Up in orbit, the Galactic Council officers gathered again. Some had left the room. Some stared at the screen with tight jaws and nervous eyes. The commander stood still in the center. "This is it," he said. "The final moment." No one responded. They just watched. Below, the predator reached the top. It circled the humans slowly, step by step. One wrong move could end everything. But the man did not move back. He just shifted his weight, holding the spear tight, his body balanced like a mountain. The predator roared. It charged. The man sidestepped fast. The spear slashed across the beast's neck, a deep cut. Blood flew out. The predator screamed. It turned and struck with its claw, but the human ducked low. He moved like water, like wind. Like instinct, he stabbed the spear again, this time into the creature's shoulder. The predator jumped backward. It shook with rage. It charged again. This time the man let it come. He waited, then dropped low and rolled under the beast's legs. The predator missed, and now the man stood behind it. He grabbed a thick vine from the ground and jumped onto the predator's back. The creature screamed and tried to throw him off, but he held tight. He wrapped the vine around its throat, one arm under the neck, one leg hooked round the body, and then he pulled hard. The predator slammed into the ground. It rolled, it kicked, it smashed trees, but the human did not let go. His arms squeezed tighter. The predator's eyes rolled back. Its claws scratched the dirt. Its mouth opened wide, but no sound came out. And then, silence. The beast stopped moving. Its chest no longer rose. Its limbs no longer twitched. The jungle was still again. The man stood. His body shook with pain. Blood ran down his arm. His breathing came hard. But his eyes stayed cold. He had done it. He had killed the apex predator with nothing but jungle tools and human strength. Above, in the Galactic Council ship, no one spoke. They had just watched the strongest beast in the galaxy fall. Not to an army, not to a weapon, but to one man, one human dot. Alone, a low voice broke the silence. "We were wrong about them." Another said, "This man, he is not just human." The commander stepped forward and gave one slow nod. "He is what humans become when they are pushed." Back on the planet, the man walked to the predator's body. He placed a hand on its chest. Not in victory, not in hate, but in respect. Then he turned toward the sky, toward the invisible eyes watching from orbit. He raised one hand and pointed not at the jungle, not at the beast, but at the stars. At them, the message was clear. "Send another. I will still be here." He left the hill and disappeared into the trees once more. The jungle accepted him again, and the galaxy would never forget what they saw. Not a warship, not a bomb, not a soldier with armor, but a man, a bare-handed human, who broke the galaxy's deadliest predator and smiled. The jungle slept. Birds returned to their nests. The wind moved gently again. Trees stopped shaking. Life, after chaos, began to breathe slow and soft. But the body of the predator still lay cold on the hill. Its eyes were shut. Its claws had gone dull. The ground beneath it was stained with dark blood. Around the clearing, broken trees and deep claw marks showed the story of what had happened. One man, one monster. Only the man had walked away. Far above the planet, inside the Galactic Council ship, silence ruled the room. Officers stared at the final image on the screen. Some still did not believe what they saw. Others could not look away. The Apex Predator, their strongest living weapon, had been defeated by a man with no armor and no machine. He broke it. Someone whispered. "No," another replied. "He beat it, with purpose." The commander stood still, eyes locked on the screen. No one dared speak again, because deep inside, they all felt something they had not felt in many years. Fear, real fear, but also something else. Respect. They had seen power. They had seen control. But now they had seen will. The kind of will that refused to die. The kind of will that came from Earth. On the jungle floor, near the dead body of the predator, a council drone hovered low. It came to retrieve the remains. Its light scanned the area. Its camera blinked. Red dot, then it stopped. Its sensors picked up movement. The man had returned. He stepped from the trees slowly. His shirt hung in torn pieces. His hands were still covered in dirt and blood. But his steps were strong. His eyes clear. In one hand he held something heavy, the broken fang of the predator cut from its mouth. In the other, a piece of rock that the drone stayed still. The man walked forward. He looked straight into the lens. And then he raised the rock. On the side of the predator's body, using the blood and the stone, the man began to write, simple letters, big enough for every camera to see. The message was short, but it hit harder than any weapon. Earth is not prey. The drone backed away. Message complete. The man turned, walked into the forest again, and did not look back. His job was finished, but his message was only beginning. Up in orbit, the words appeared on every council screen. Officers stared. Some read them aloud, but no one could explain how they felt. This was not a victory. This was a warning. A truth the galaxy had ignored for too long. Earth had been left alone after the last war. The Council thought humans were too wild, too emotional, too divided, not worth full contact, not a true threat. But now, they knew better, because one human, just one, had survived a death sentence, designed by the galaxy's most powerful leaders. And that human had not just survived, he had crushed their pride, their beast, their weapon. The commander turned slowly to his officers. "What happens when more of them come?" he asked. No one answered. He looked again at the message. Earth is not prey. A silent message, but a loud answer. Days passed. The footage leaked into black markets. Space traders shared it across star systems. Miners watched it in far-off colonies. Soldiers in outposts re-watched the moment the human dropped the beast with bare arms. And everywhere, across the stars, a new whisper began to spread. Not just a story, not just a legend, but a name. The man who broke the Predator. People said he had no fear. Others said he spoke to the forest. Some believed he was not human at all, but something greater, something older, something waiting. Earth stayed quiet. No messages came from the humans. No warships moved. No threats were made. But the galaxy changed. Council meetings grew tense. Border patrols increased. War simulations were run again and again. Yet every answer ended with the same problem. How do you stop an enemy that refuses to quit, even with no weapon? Back on Earth, no one knew about the message written in alien blood. The man who had sent it returned home with no parade, no medal, no speech. He walked the streets like any other man, but deep inside, he carried the jungle in his soul, and in the stars above. Fear remained, not of armies, not of fleets, but of something more dangerous. A human who had nothing left to lose. The galaxy would never be the same, because the day a human crushed their greatest beast. The universe learned a truth they had forgotten. You can conquer planets, you can build armies, but you cannot measure the heart of a man who stands alone. And Earth would never be prey again.